Mary stood by the window, her eyes fixed on the driveway. The evening sun cast long shadows, and the golden light bathed the scene in an almost surreal glow. She watched as her husband John pulled up in his sleek black car. Her heart, usually filled with affection at the sight of him, now felt heavy with a gnawing unease. As John stepped out of the car, Mary noticed a young woman following him. They were laughing, their faces lit up with a shared secret. Mary's breath caught in her throat as John pulled the woman into an embrace, their bodies pressed together in a way that left no room for misinterpretation. She felt a surge of emotions, rage, betrayal, and heartbreak, crash over her like waves in a storm. Every fiber of her being screamed to confront them, to demand answers, to make sense of the betrayal that was unfolding before her eyes. But she remained frozen, her feet rooted to the spot, as if bound by invisible chains. She knew that if she confronted them now, it would shatter the fragile veneer of her life. So she did the only thing she could think of. She suppressed her feelings, convincing herself that John would never betray her like this. Mary tore her gaze away from the scene and took a deep, shuddering breath. She needed to focus, to regain her composure. Tonight was a significant night. They were hosting a birthday celebration for John's boss, Robert William. She had to keep herself together for the sake of the event. As she busied herself with the preparations, setting the table and arranging the decorations, her mind was a whirlpool of confusion and doubt. How could John do this to her? What had she done wrong? Her thoughts spiraled as she tried to make sense of the situation. The house was filled with the scent of freshly baked goods and the hum of background music, a stark contrast to the chaos inside her heart. Just as she was about to place the final touches on the birthday cake, John walked in, his demeanor cool and collected. "I need to pick up a gift for Robert. I'll be back soon," he said, not meeting her eyes. Mary nodded silently, watching him leave. As the door clicked shut, she poured herself a glass of wine, hoping it would steady her nerves. She sat on the couch, staring into the ruby liquid, her mind replaying the scene she had just witnessed. She felt a tear slip down her cheek, and she quickly brushed it away. She couldn't afford to fall apart. Not now. Her thoughts were interrupted by a gentle voice. "Mary, are you all right?" She looked up to see Robert Williams standing in the doorway. His eyes, filled with concern, scanned her face. "I'm fine, Robert. Just a bit overwhelmed with all the preparations," she replied, forcing a smile. Robert walked over and sat down beside her. "You look like you have something on your mind. You know you can talk to me, right?" Mary hesitated, unsure whether to confide in him, but there was something in his demeanor, an unspoken understanding that made her want to open up. It's nothing, really. I'm fine," she said, her voice wavering. Robert nodded, respecting her reluctance. "Just remember, you don't have to go through anything alone," he said softly before leaving her to her thoughts. As Mary watched him go, she felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she would find the strength to confront her fears and face the truth. For now, she had to focus on the celebration and keep her emotions in check. Little did she know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would change her life forever. Mary took a deep breath and stood up, determined to push her emotions aside for the sake of the event. She moved with a purpose, her hands deftly arranging flowers and setting the table, creating an elegant atmosphere for the birthday celebration. The scent of freshly baked goods mingled with the soft background music, a stark contrast to the turmoil within her heart. As she worked, memories of happier times with John flitted through her mind, causing a pang of sadness. She recalled the early days of their relationship, filled with laughter and love. But those memories now felt distant, overshadowed by the image of John embracing another woman. Just as she placed the final touches on the birthday cake, the doorbell rang. Guests began to arrive, their cheerful voices filling the room. Mary plastered a smile on her face, greeting each one with warmth and grace, masking the storm that brewed inside her. John returned shortly after, carrying a beautifully wrapped gift for Robert William. He greeted the guests with his usual charm, but Mary could sense the tension in his posture. She wondered if he felt any guilt for his actions or if he was completely oblivious to the pain he had caused her. As the evening progressed, Mary focused on her duties as the hostess, ensuring that everyone was comfortable and enjoying themselves. She moved through the crowd with practiced ease, refilling glasses and engaging in light conversation. All the while, she kept a watchful eye on John, her mind racing with questions she didn't dare voice. Robert William, the guest of honor, arrived fashionably late. He was a distinguished man, exuding an air of confidence and authority. His presence commanded attention, and the room fell into a respectful silence as he entered. Mary couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration for him. He had always been kind to her, treating her with respect and understanding. As the evening unfolded, Robert William made his way to Mary. He smiled warmly, his eyes filled with the same concern he had shown earlier. "Mary, thank you for hosting this wonderful celebration. You've outdone yourself," he said, his voice sincere. "Thank you, Robert. I'm glad you are enjoying it," Mary replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Robert's gaze lingered on her for a moment, as if he could see through the facade she had carefully constructed. "If you ever need to talk, I'm here," he said gently before moving on to greet other guests. Mary watched him go, feeling a mixture of gratitude and uncertainty. She appreciated his kindness, but she wasn't sure if she was ready to open up about the turmoil in her life. The evening continued with laughter and merriment, the guests oblivious to the undercurrents of tension that ran through the room. As the time for speeches approached, Mary felt a knot form in her stomach. John would soon take the stage, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen. When John finally stepped up to the microphone, the room fell silent. He began his speech with the usual pleasantries, praising Robert William for his leadership and vision. But as he spoke, Mary noticed a flicker of hesitation in his eyes. She held her breath, unsure of what was to come. John's voice echoed through the room as he continued his speech, but there was a noticeable tremor in his tone. Mary stood at the back, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt a mix of dread and anticipation, sensing that the evening was on the brink of a dramatic turn. "Robert William has been more than just a boss to us. He's been a mentor, a guide, and a friend," John said, his eyes scanning the crowd. "Tonight we celebrate not just his birthday, but the invaluable impact he has had on all our lives." Mary watched him intently, her mind replaying the image of John with the young woman earlier. She struggled to maintain her composure, her fingers gripping the edge of the table. John hesitated, his gaze shifting towards Mary for a fleeting moment before he continued. "In life, we all make mistakes. Sometimes we hurt the ones we love without realizing the consequences. It's not easy to admit when we've done wrong, but it's necessary for growth and redemption." The room grew tense, the guests sensing an undercurrent of something personal in John's words. Mary's breath caught as she realized he was alluding to his affair. She glanced around, noticing the puzzled expressions on the guests' faces. "I want to take this moment to acknowledge my own mistakes," John said, his voice cracking. "To my wife, Mary, I am deeply sorry for the pain I have caused you. I never intended to hurt you, and I hope we can find a way to heal together." A murmur of confusion and surprise rippled through the crowd. Mary felt her cheeks flush with a mix of anger and embarrassment. This wasn't how she wanted the truth to come out, but there was no turning back now. At that moment, the young woman who had been with John earlier entered the room. Her presence caused a collective gasp from the guests. She looked around nervously, her eyes locking on John. Without thinking, John left the stage and rushed towards her, his face etched with panic. "Rebecca, wait," he called out, but she ignored him, pushing through the crowd and leaving the venue. Chaos erupted as guests whispered and speculated about what they had just witnessed. Mary stood frozen, her emotions in turmoil. She felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to see Robert William, his eyes filled with concern. "Mary, are you all right?" he asked gently. She nodded, unable to find her voice. The revelation had left her reeling, and she struggled to process the turn of events. John's public admission and the dramatic exit of his mistress had laid bare the cracks in their marriage for all to see. "Let's get some fresh air," Robert suggested, guiding her towards the terrace. The cool night breeze offered some relief from the suffocating atmosphere inside. Mary took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. Robert stood beside her, his presence a comforting anchor. "You don't have to face this alone, Mary. I'm here for you, whatever you need." Mary looked up at him, her eyes filled with gratitude and confusion. "Thank you, Robert. I don't know what to do now." "We'll figure it out together," he assured her, his voice steady and reassuring. For now, just take it one step at a time. Mary felt a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. The evening had taken an unexpected turn, but perhaps it was the catalyst she needed to reclaim her life and find her own path forward. Mary and Robert stood on the terrace, the cool night air providing a brief respite from the chaos inside. Boom. Mary's mind was a whirlwind of emotions, anger, betrayal, confusion, but she felt a sense of clarity beginning to form. She knew she couldn't continue living a lie, and the time for confrontation had come. Just as she was about to speak, the terrace door flew open, and John stormed out, his face contorted with anger. "Mary, what the hell was that?" he demanded, his voice shaking with rage. "Did you set this whole thing up? Is this some kind of sick joke?" Mary turned to face him, her eyes blazing with fury. "I didn't set anything up, John. You did this to yourself. You betrayed me, and now you're dealing with the consequences." John's eyes narrowed, jealousy and guilt flashing across his face. "So this is how you want it to be? You want to ruin my reputation, my career, just because you're upset? Grow up, Mary." Mary's fists clenched at her sides, her nails digging into her palms. "This isn't about your reputation, John. This is about our marriage and how you've destroyed it. I won't pretend everything's fine anymore. I want a divorce." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. John's face twisted with disbelief. "You're being ridiculous. We can work through this. You can't just throw everything away because of one mistake." "One mistake? This isn't just about the affair, John. It's about the lies, the deceit, the way you've treated me like I'm nothing," Mary retorted, her voice rising with each word. "I deserve better. I want a happier life without you." John took a step forward, his eyes desperate and pleading. "Mary, please. We can fix this. I love you." Mary shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "No, John, love isn't enough. You've broken my trust, and I can't live like this anymore." At that moment, Robert Williams stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. "John, I think you should leave," he said firmly, his gaze unwavering. John glared at Robert, anger and jealousy burning in his eyes. "This is all your fault, isn't it? You've been waiting for a moment like this, haven't you?" Robert remained calm, his voice steady. "This has nothing to do with me, John. This is between you and Mary. Now please leave." John hesitated for a moment, his eyes darting between Mary and Robert. Finally, with a frustrated growl, he turned and stormed back into the house, leaving Mary and Robert alone on the terrace. Mary exhaled shakily, the weight of the confrontation settling on her shoulders. "Thank you, Robert," she said softly, her voice tinged with exhaustion. Robert nodded, his eyes filled with compassion. "You're stronger than you realize, Mary. You deserve happiness, and I'll support you in whatever you decide." Mary looked up at him, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that I can't go back to the way things were. It's time for a change." Robert smiled gently, his hand resting on her shoulder. "One step at a time. You're not alone in this." Standing under the moonlit sky, Mary felt a sense of empowerment and clarity. The confrontation with John had been difficult, but it was a necessary step towards reclaiming her life. With Robert's support, she was ready to face the challenges ahead and embrace the possibility of a new beginning. As the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, Mary found herself standing on the terrace, a newfound sense of clarity settling over her. The events of the previous evening had left her emotionally drained, but also surprisingly liberated. She knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but she was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. Mary turned to see Robert Williams joining her, a warm smile on his face. "Good morning, Mary," he greeted, his voice filled with genuine care. "Good morning, Robert," she replied, feeling a surge of gratitude for his unwavering support. "Thank you for being here with me. I don't think I could have gotten through last night without you." Robert shook his head. "You're stronger than you realize, Mary. You faced a difficult situation with grace and courage. I'm proud of you." Mary smiled, his words filling her with a renewed sense of confidence. "I've been thinking a lot about what comes next. I know I can't go back to the way things were with John. It's time for a fresh start, for me and for Dennis." Robert nodded, understanding the weight of her decision. You deserve to be happy, Mary. And whatever you decide, know that you have my full support. As the sun continued to rise, Mary felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had spent too long living in the shadows of doubt and fear, but now she was ready to step into the light and embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. The days that followed were filled with a mix of challenges and triumphs. Mary took the first steps towards rebuilding her life, seeking legal counsel to initiate the divorce process and making plans for her future. She found solace in the support of her friends and family, who rallied around her with love and encouragement. Robert was a constant presence, offering his assistance whenever she needed it. He provided a listening ear, a shoulder to lean on, and a source of unwavering strength. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, and Mary began to see him not just as a friend, but as a partner who truly understood and cared for her. One evening as they sat on the terrace, Mary broached the subject that had been on her mind. Robert, I've been thinking a lot about the future. I know it's too soon to make any big decisions, but I can't help but feel a connection with you. I want to explore that if you're open to it. Robert smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. I feel the same way, Mary. We don't have to rush into anything, but I'm here for you, and I'm willing to see where this journey takes us. Mary felt a sense of relief and excitement at his words. The prospect of a future with Robert filled her with hope and possibility. She knew that their relationship would be built on a foundation of trust, respect, and genuine affection, things that had been sorely lacking in her marriage with John. As the weeks turned into months, Mary embraced her new life with determination and optimism. She pursued her passions, took up new hobbies, and invested time in her personal growth. Dennis flourished as well, his laughter and energy a constant reminder of the joy that life could bring. One bright afternoon, Mary and Dennis found themselves at a local park, enjoying the warm sunshine. Dennis sped off on his scooter, his laughter ringing out as he raced along the path. Mary watched him with a smile, feeling a deep sense of contentment. Suddenly, Dennis lost control of his scooter, and Mary's heart leaped into her throat. Before she could react, a young girl named Brooke sprang into action, catching Dennis just in time and preventing a fall. Mary rushed over, her gratitude spilling out in a rush of words. Thank you so much. You were amazing, Mary said, her eyes filled with relief. Brooke smiled shyly. It's no problem. I'm glad I could help. Mary noticed a familiar glint in Brooke's eyes, and a sense of recognition stirred within her. Do I know you from somewhere? She asked, curious. Brooke hesitated before replying. Actually, I think I recognize you too. My name is Brooke, and I think we might be connected in a way neither of us expected. Intrigued and hopeful, Mary invited Brooke to join them for a walk. As they strolled through the park, Mary shared her story, and Brooke listened intently. It wasn't long before they both realized that Brooke was the long-lost daughter of Mary's adoptive mother, and that fate had brought them together in a miraculous way. The reunion was emotional and joyous, and Mary welcomed Brooke into their lives with open arms. Together, they celebrated the new beginnings that life had offered them. With Robert by her side, Mary felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and uncertainty, but she had emerged stronger and more determined than ever. As she stood with her newfound family under the golden sunlight, Mary knew that the future was bright and filled with endless possibilities. The story of Mary's journey from betrayal to empowerment and the new beginnings that awaited her serves as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is hope for a brighter future. Embracing change and facing challenges with courage and resilience can lead to a life filled with love, joy, and fulfillment.